Anthony Fauci, your time has come. Anthony Fauci, you're losing your security. And guess what, Anthony Fauci? I would not be surprised if you wind up in a whole lot more trouble. Sometimes it's not the crime, but the cover-up of the crime. Alleged crime. Oh, we're going to get into all of that on today's show, plus RFK's response to the RFK, JFK, MLK files being released. Donald Trump just saying moments ago he wants Epstein's files released as well. He wants to know exactly how, why he was killed. I have some inside intel on that. I spoke with someone who knew Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, quite well for many, many years. I'm going to share that with you. Plus, what's going on with the media? They continue to just narrate a whole bunch of garbage. Well, some reporters are exposing them, some political reporters coming forward and giving us the truth about what all goes down. I try to do the exact same thing here on this show every day because I've been in the mainstream media up until 2020, my entire career, and I know how these games are played. Welcome to the program. Make sure you subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. It is wonderful to have you here. There's a lot going on. We should begin today with Fauci getting his security detail revoked. No more security for one Anthony Fauci, who just happened to be the highest paid employee in our government. Imagine that, making more than the president. If you're Anthony Fauci, apparently you got the real keys to the kingdom. Well, Donald Trump saying he's had enough. And no, we're not going to continue as taxpayers paying for Anthony Fauci's detail to the tune of millions of dollars a year. Trump's like, you know what? He's made a lot of money. He can handle it.
But you can't have a security detail for the rest of your life because you work for government. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Would you feel partially responsible if something were to happen to, say, Dr. Fauci
No.
or John Bolton?
No. You know, they all made a lot of money. They can hire their own security, too. All the people you're talking about, they can go out. I can give them some good numbers of very good security people. They can hire their own security. They all made a lot of money. Fauci made a lot of money. They all did. So if they, felt that strongly, I think that certainly I would not take responsibility.
So, you heard him. He's going to even make recommendations. He's got some security companies that they could use. Last I heard, the government was paying $15 million for John Bolton's security. That's massive to me. That's really, really massive. I have known John Bolton for a number of years. He would come on my shows at Fox over the years. And I can remember him in 2016. He would actually walk around by himself, no security, no detail. Of course, that was before he became head of the NSC, and apparently now Iran really wants him. I think Iran kind of wanted him back then as well, but he had no security. Then he got lots of security thanks to Biden, and again, Fauci's the other biggie. Fauci has plenty of security as well, and it's sort of shocking because I'm not really sure who's out to get him. I mean, I don't know why we're paying $15 million. I guess Donald Trump is effectively trying to do Doge's work for it. Here's Bolton complaining about all this on CNN today on a program that you'd think would be off the news by now. This guy, Jim Acosta, is going to be going to midnight Siberia, as we call it in television news.
Just 4 days into his second term, President Trump is not wasting any time going after those who have spoken out against him. Trump has revoked federal security protection for his former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, who faces ongoing threats from Iran. This latest move comes just days after Trump pulled the Secret Service detail for his former national security advisor turned critic, John Bolton. And Ambassador John Bolton joins us now. Mr. Ambassador, thanks for being here. Trump is defending his decision to pull protection for you and Secretary Pompeo. Let's listen to that.
When you have protection, you can't have it for the rest of your life. Do you want to have a large detail of people guarding people for the rest of their lives? I mean, there's risks to everything.
I guess, he did vow retribution during the campaign. Is that what this is? What's your response to that?
No, I think it is retribution. Look, there are several people, several former officials who are being protected because of Iranian threats made against their lives in connection with the elimination of Qasem Soleimani back in January of 2020, a decision President Trump himself approved. If you could ask all of us, I'll speak for all of them, I think I can do that, we'd be delighted to say we'd like to see the protection ended well before the end of our lives if the threat diminishes. If the threat level remains high, look, it's up to the president, but in my case, getting Secret Service protection is not a perquisite. It's not something you should want. It was provided by President Biden because of threats that have subsequently been documented in a Justice Department criminal charge against the Iranian Revolutionary Guards official trying to hire a hitman against me.
Right, and I have to assume that this protection not only helps you, but helps protect your family, members of your family as well. At times, do you fear for your safety, your family's safety?
Well, I think they follow the media in Tehran, and when they see that Mike Pompeo, myself, no longer have coverage, given that it's just a few weeks ago now that the federal officials arrested a Pakistani national working for the Iranians, trying to hire assassins to kill President Trump. This is a very real, ongoing threat. I was told as recently as the weekend before the inaugural that the threat level remained the same. And I should say, neither I nor any of the other people who are receiving the protection have anything to do with establishing the threat level. That comes from a consensus from the intelligence community. So the idea that nobody's entitled to protection for the rest of their lives, except, of course, former presidents, is kind of a non-answer to the point. I think Trump knew exactly what he was doing.
He's trying to rattle your cage, I guess. Is that what you think?
Well, whatever it is, it's the sort of decision that represents the triumph of politics over national security. I'm sure when President Biden approved Secret Service protection for me, he wasn't.
I'm not so sure about that. For one thing, isn't he working for Fox now? Maybe Fox can pay for his security detail. I'm sure Trump's like, let Rupert deal with it. I'm just going to say, so he worked for Bush, and when I knew Bolton, he never had security detail. Perhaps things have ratcheted up in a weird kind of way. You're kind of scaling it down. When you're getting rid of the security detail, it's like saying, Bolton doesn't really matter anymore. He's no longer who you need or want. If you have all the security apparatus around him, it almost creates more of an issue. In terms of Fauci, Anthony Fauci, I'm not really sure that the Iranians are out to get Anthony Fauci, nor the Chinese, nor anyone else. I think that probably the Fauci thing might be more about Fauci, wanting all the security detail, dare I say, than Fauci really, really needing it. All that said, look, I think you're going to have to take a red pen to the budget. We spend a lot of money. There's a ton of money that is spent. And you say, are you really spending it in the right places? As you heard Acosta say to Bolton there, well, I assume that's for your family too. Does the whole family get protection? I don't really think that's how it works. I mean, are Obama's kids still getting protection? I know that I did a speech with Laura Bush. This is years ago, maybe back around 16, 17. And she was on the same flight as me, flying out to do the speaking arrangement. I was interviewing her for something. She didn't have any security. She was just all on her own. I thought, oh, that's interesting. She's the granddaughter. But you see, it can't go on and on and on and on forever. At some point, you're making a commitment. I understand it's a big risk that people take going to work in the government, but how long does that $15 million a year worth of security really need to be continuing? You have to be able to assess these threats, and I guess if the threat gets ratcheted up, then you have government come in and do what they can. In the meantime, though, I'm wondering if this is setting the stage for something bigger. Anthony Fauci, the J6 committee, the entire Biden family, everyone, in my estimation, is at risk of being prosecuted, at risk for both civil liability and states coming after them. Anthony Fauci could very well wind up in jail. If it turns out that he lied under oath, which it certainly seems that way when you look at some of the emails and some of the funding that was going from the NIH over to some murky other institution, which was then giving the money to the Wuhan lab. I mean, it certainly appears that there are some questions that need to be answered. And so by pardoning Anthony Fauci, he should be able to give the absolute and utter truth on everything should somebody want to do an investigation. This is now coming up, whether or not Congress decides to do an investigation. But I'll tell you, it doesn't just need to be congressional. You can have a congressional investigation. You can have state investigations. Texas will love this one. Florida will love this one as well. You can have the state investigations, and you can have civil investigations as well. I mean, think about what people lost as a result of perhaps some of Fauci's decisions along the way. Let's take a look here. Donald Trump talking with Sean Hannity, my former colleague over on Fox, about this just the other night, about whether or not he'd be looking to see an investigation into some of these people.
She should have dropped out. At least she wouldn't have that moniker.
Before I go to the economy and foreign policy, as long as you brought up this topic, Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, Adam Schiff, who got a preemptive pardon, all these people that got pardoned, Anthony Fauci, did he know that NIH money through the EcoHealth Alliance was funding the Wuhan Virology Lab? There seems to be text and messages and emails that went back and forth. You talk about the unselect committee, as you call it, the January 6th committee. They had a predetermined outcome. General Milley, all these people, the Biden family members. Joe Biden ran and said he would never do preemptive pardons. It was an issue that came up when you were leaving in your first time.
He heard that I was going to do it. I didn't want to do it. I was given the option. They said, sir, would you like to pardon everybody, including yourself? I said, I'm not going to pardon anybody. We didn't do anything wrong. And we had people that suffered. They're incredible patriots. We had people that suffered. You had Bannon put in jail. You had Peter Navarro put in jail. You had people that suffered, and far worse than that, they've lost their fortunes, they've lost their nest egg, paying it to lawyers, and those people, and people said, and they wouldn't have even taken, most of those people, they wouldn't have even taken a pardon. This guy went around giving everybody pardons, and the funny thing, maybe the sad thing, is he didn't give himself a pardon. And if you look at it, it all had to do with him. I mean, the money went to him.
Should Congress investigate that?
Well, I don't know. It's,
you ordered the DOJ.
I've always been, look, he didn't give himself a pardon. And he didn't give some other people a pardon that needed it. And I heard Schiff went to him and just begged him for a pardon, because Schiff is a crook. Yeah. Schiff is a crooked guy. He's a crooked politician. He made up the story about Russia. He totally made it up. He's a storyteller. And then after he made it up, they found out that there was a tape of the conversation made by, I guess, the State Department. I don't know. When you make calls, they make tapes sometimes, not all the time.
He was the one talking to the Russians.
So he, in the meantime, made up the conversation, totally made it up about quid pro quo. There was no quid pro quo, there was a perfect call. Tim Scott was the first one to come. He read it. He said, this is a perfect call. What are you doing? You're impeaching a man for a perfect call. It was Schiff, Hillary, the whole group. You know what? Schiff is just a bad, sick guy. And he went to Biden and he demanded a pardon because he thought he did something. He knew he did something.
Benny Thompson won the chairman of that committee.
Benny Thompson destroyed, along with that unselect committee, destroyed all of the work that took place over 2 years. You know why? It showed that I was right.
We're back with the 45th.
Amazing, right? So should Congress be investigating this? I'm just going to go on a limb and say yes, and yes again. And you know why they need to investigate it? Because we can't have this kind of thing happening. We can't have people profiting illegally off of their parents' positions in government, which is apparently what Hunter Biden was quite willing to do. Don't forget, everyone, all right? The gun charges aside, remember the judge who said, wait a second, I can't sign off on this. He was willing to plead guilty on the gun charge so long as they would never go after him on all this other stuff, which was none other than the foreign lobbying that he was doing while not being registered as a foreign lobbyist. He never bothered to register for those things and yet was working on behalf of daddy, I guess. I mean, how else do you get a job on a board in Ukraine to the tune of $60,000, $80,000 a month times two, because Devin Archer, his partner, was getting paid as well. And then you go to daddy, who's in charge of Ukraine policy, and you say, hey, dad, I need your help. Burisma, my company's getting investigated by this guy. We need to get rid of him. And what does daddy do? He gets rid of him. Oh, and it's on tape. He admitted it to the CFR, Council on Foreign Relations. This is something that came up, don't forget, in the 2020 campaign.
It's an open discussion, please.
Now, it's a fact.
Well, you have raised an issue. Let the Vice President answer.
Discredited.
Did Burisma pay him $183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr. President,
with no
my son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he did.
Mr.
The only
President,
guy that
let
did
him
something-
answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
By who?
In
The
Ukraine.
media.
By everybody. Well, by the media, by our
because they refuse to
allies,
talk
by the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone has discredited. Matter of fact, even
Mr.
the
President,
people who
please stop.
testified under oath.
So let me
Under
ask you
oath.
this,
Under
Joe.
No,
oath.
go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to
Even
you.
the people under.
He got $3.5 million from Moscow.
He testified under oath in his administration.
Yeah. How do you get all that money from Moscow? How do you get all that money from Romania? How do you get all that money from China? How do you get a diamond, an actual diamond, from the Chinese energy guy, who's, by the way, gone, we don't know where, in China? You got to ask yourself, what really was going on? And then when you combine that with these pre-pardons, I mean, you're getting a pardon before you've even been accused of anything? That's a little weird. Or like it's unprecedented. It's never actually happened before. James Biden, Sarah Jones Biden, Valerie Biden, just the whole family. John T. Owens married to Valerie Biden Owens, Francis Biden. Oh, and then we get Fauci in there. Because who knows what Fauci was doing. Woo! You know, he caused a lot of pain for a lot of people, including this economy. A lot of people's businesses shut down. All kinds of things. General Mark Milley, Liz Cheney, because who knows, the J6 committee, they were really orchestrating something together in ways that they shouldn't have. And we've talked about that because Liz Cheney might have been guilty of interfering with witnesses. I mean, it's messed up. And he goes out and gives all these pardons. I mean, not even CNN, as you know, can forgive it.
It's just unseemly. If you're going to do it, have the courage to do it in the light of day and explain it to the American people. It's a stain on his legacy to do it like this.
You better believe it is. And it makes me wonder just exactly what was going on. I mean, this is unprecedented. You do not do this. But here's the thing. All of those people that got those pardons, if they decide to do a congressional investigation, if they decide to have a civil case brought against them, if they decide to have state cases brought against them, hey, Texas, Florida, right? Then these people have to testify. They can't plead the fifth. They have to come forward. And just to be very clear, the pardon, I sound like Letitia James because this is her line, the pardon that the president is giving on the federal level has nothing to do with the state. So in Letitia James's case, right, she's trying to argue she can move forward with her case because it's a state case and thus the presidential pardon. I mean, it's a little more complicated because you get the Supreme Court in there, et cetera. And it's perhaps why Biden didn't bother pardoning himself. He doesn't need to because the Supreme Court has said that you're not liable for anything you did as president. But I also am going to go back to maybe he wasn't president when this stuff was going down, especially with all the money grubbing, whatever you want to call it. I mean, the Biden name for sale. No sooner does he become in charge of Ukraine policy that his idiot son, who got kicked out of the military for reasons we don't even need to discuss, but let's just say the guy's got some real problems, substance abuse being one of them, he gets a job for that kind of crazy amount of money? It doesn't make any sense. No, It doesn't. And it's just all wrong. It's so gross. And, you hope for more in this world. We hope for more from politicians for sure. Quick shout out to my financial research company, 76research.com. You can get the 76 report at 76report.com or 76research.com. Just use code word dollar. I was looking at the market today. I actually bought because you had things that were down just a little tiny bit. Down a little bit. I mean, the cryptos have still been on a tear, which is just amazing to see. But you had the S&P kind of flat, the NASDAQ down trading just a bit. And so it was, for me anyway, a good opportunity because I use those opportunities to go in. S&P down about 0.4%, NASDAQ down 0.6%, Dow off 0.5%. So again, as I said, these are opportunities to go in. We have 3 model portfolios set up for you, and there's a lot of good information and names, specifically names in each one of them, 10 to 15 stocks. So I encourage you to go over there, at least get the 76 report. But while you're there, look at the model portfolios. You can get all the model portfolios if you sign up for the Founders Club, which also gives you access to all future model portfolios as well. Again, 76research.com, my financial research company I created with a very dear longtime friend who's brilliant and a great stock picker. I would not have anything less for you guys. So for the first 2 months, just $1, DOLLAR, and then it goes to $9.95 thereafter. You can cancel anytime, even for the $1. So you're not out anything. As we talk about what's going on with these pardons, as we consider the level of corruption that really did exist within, in my estimation, the Biden administration, it was just off the charts. Think about how there was no freedom of the press during this time. A couple of former Politico reporters have come forward and they're talking about, remember that great day, the spies who lied to us, all of those spies, the 51 ex-spooks and hacks that were brought together to sign this letter saying, the Hunter Biden laptop is not real. It is just Russian misinformation fed to you by one Rudy Giuliani. Don't take any of it seriously. And if you do, we're going to shut you down. We're going to shut off your Twitter account. We're going to make sure that nobody can advertise with you. Don't forget, this is how these newspapers make their money. It was pretty darn wild. Yours truly was a victim of it. I mean, hey, I've been a victim of everything between Fauci and COVID. And don't you dare say that you can't take that seriously enough. Don't you dare say that CNN's overdoing it, or you'll pay the price, right? Don't ever suggest that COVID might have some political elements to it as well. I mean, heck, let's be honest. I warned you at the time the Democrats would take it for everything it was worth, and sure enough, they did. So here, New York Post got in all kinds of trouble, and reporters all across the country and the globe were warned, you can't cover this. You can't. These political reporters said as much. Let's listen in.
Another great example, when Politico did that terrible, ill-fated headline. 51 intelligence agents or former intelligence agents say that the Hunter Biden laptop was disinformation,
right?
Or bore the hallmarks of disinformation. Turns out that story was closer to disinformation because the Hunter Biden laptop appeared to be true.
But then Facebook also pulled all stories down about the Hunter Biden laptop, and I think Twitter did at the same time too.
Correct.
Yeah.
They punished the New York Post. It didn't help. I mean, Politico, my former employer, and I knew at the time, didn't do itself any favors. I was covering Biden at the time, and I remember coming to my editor and saying, hey, we need to write about the Hunter Biden laptop. And I was told this came from on high at Politico. Don't write about the laptop, don't talk about the laptop, don't tweet about the laptop. And the only thing Politico wound up writing was that piece that called it disinformation, which charitably could be called misinformation at the least.
Yeah, I mean, I had a hard time. I wrote some pretty serious reporting on Hunter Biden, which actually ended up getting him prosecuted, the story on the gun.
Yeah, and I remember you consulted with me because you did the original report on the gun. And you came to me like, how do I write about this? I'm like, honestly, I don't know.
Because it was hard to get it done.
You figured it out. Yeah.
I spent three months on it. I went to the laptop shop and I did all of the reporting in Delaware, and I did all of that. But yeah, it had to be like it had to be 100% nailed down. Mm-hmm. I had everything, the police reports, I'm a solid reporter, but I do wonder if it would have been published a little quicker. If it was a different type of story.
Well, since we're spilling tea about our former employer, I still have a copy of the story on my external hard drive. In 2019, a rival presidential Democratic campaign of Joe Biden's gave to me the tax lien, the Oppo research, the tax lien on Hunter Biden for the period of time that he worked at Burisma. And I wrote what would have been a classic story saying, the former vice president's son was slapped with a big tax lien for the period of time that he worked for this controversial Ukrainian oil concern or natural gas concern, which is haunting his father on the campaign trail. That story was killed by the editors, and they gave no explanation for that either.
Interesting.
So that general experience, obviously the public doesn't know about those things, but as a reporter, having witnessed the way in which the two candidates
we just get called like the terrible mainstream media. Yep. It's like you don't understand the process there.
We also don't understand the dumb decision of cowardly editors that are
the
making.
man above us when we're trying to do our jobs. Yep. You know what I mean? We're just looking for scoops, man.
The big bias is toward a good story.
New podcast, and look, I'm going to let you in on something too. I mean, this is one. Kind of how it goes, right? I can remember working at CBS News, NBC News. There were things that kind of had to go through the higher ups. Same thing at Fox, right? Every commentary I did, every single night. God, it drove me crazy. I was like, does Tucker have to go through this, or is it just Trish? Every single commentary had to get approved, not just by my bosses, but by the woman who was in charge of the whole network. How crazy is that, right? And then you get these charges, it changes 5 minutes before air, and I'm like, this is nuts. We don't have to deal with that over here. It's a whole new ballgame, which is fantastic. Hey, by the way, I just want to give a shout out to Steve Frischman. Thank you for your super chat. He writes, at Steve Frischman, hi Trish, when the JFK files come out, look for stuff on Howard Hunt. He admitted that he was there and it was a CIA operation. He was one of 3 tramps on the grassy knoll. He admitted that before he died. Yeah, I've seen some of the stuff on Howard Hunt. Look, this is going to be wild. We're going to get to that because I have more to share with you, including some of Kash Patel's comments on what's going to be coming out, as well as Mike Pompeo's comments about what's coming out, as well as RFK, and even, by the way, the grandson of JFK as well. So RFK Jr. and then JFK. Amazing, amazing, amazing stuff going on. But back to sort of this media bias. It's been so extraordinary and so gross, and then you hear it now. You can feel it almost, like CNN, which is laying off 200 people, by the way, including one Jim Acosta, who you just saw. I guess he's going to the midnight shift, or he's leaving, one or the other. Norah O'Donnell, who was the CBS Evening News anchor, she's out there at CBS. They still have Margaret Brennan on the air, and boy, she was all revved up. How can you have Kash Patel? How can you have Kash Patel? Why is he going to be head of the FBI? She's really reading the riot act to Lindsey Graham, who sends it right back at her. Don't forget, CBS is being sued by President Trump for $10 billion. We'll talk about why in a second, but watch.
Okay, ask him about going after journalists, which he's also said. I'm interested in the answer to that question.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We'll be right back.
Sure Democratic friends will ask him, and you shouldn't worry about Kash Patel.
Okay.
You should worry about reporting the news fairly, which you don't do when it comes to everything Trump.
Lindsey Graham, you're a guest on this program because we wanted to hear you out, and we welcome you back.
Yeah, right. Okay. So that's, you just get a sense of her frustration. And look, I mean, CBS, which is now down an anchor. I don't even think they know who's replacing Norah at this point. She's going over to 60 Minutes, which is not exactly, the best game in town to be at, because they're in a lot of trouble and a lot of pressure. And one of the reasons they're getting sued is for election interference as a result of this now notorious clip. I'm going to play you the before and after. If you've seen it before, I get it, but it's just worth understanding within the context of everything. Here's this interview with Kamala Harris, who we know cannot actually speak in a coherent, complete sentence. And so what does the media do? They thread these sentences together for her in post, in edit. They try to make her make some sense.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
What a difference those CBS News editors can make, huh? They can actually make her seem smart, no matter how not so smart she is. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. What was Kamala other than a DEI pick? I mean, she hit a bunch of boxes, but there's not a lot going on upstairs. Not that there's much going on upstairs with Joe Biden either. It's just that he's been hanging around forever. They couldn't get rid of him. He's political enough. He apparently has kind of a nasty side to him. He holds a grudge, and he insisted on being the guy. He got the nomination. He somehow got saddled with her. Don't ask me why that one happened. Oh, maybe Barack Obama. Maybe they figured they needed that DEI pick, given that they were pushing that nonstop. I'm telling you, it's part of the whole system right now, which is just so annoying. And it's one of the reasons why, you know what, I am really, really, really proud to tell you about an organization that I have partnered with. It's called the Herzog Foundation. If you haven't heard of it, I want you to go and check them out. Herzog Foundation. They are all about making sure that we're educating our kids in ways that will make them contributing members of society. I say contributing members of society because it seems like there's a desire to just go to school and go to school and go to school some more. And you go to school this much, and then you don't have anything to show for it. You know, you're lucky to be a barista. And by the way, nothing against them. At least they're out earning a living. You get too many people that saddle up with all this debt, and they do all these various degrees, transgender studies, you name it, and they can't earn a living, but somehow American taxpayers are supposed to pay for them. I'm sorry. That's not the way it should be. You got to teach kids from the very, very beginning. You know what? You're responsible for yourself. That's how we roll in America. That is what a meritocracy is about. That is what our culture is about. You take care of your own, and you take care of yourself, and you work hard, and that's how you get ahead. And so they don't teach that in schools anymore. No, there's just progressive nonsense. It's being force-fed down our kids' throats. And it's one of the reasons why I love the Herzog organization, because guess what? They're working to make sure that you have access to alternatives. Progressive education, no more, okay? We need some Christian alternatives. So if you're somebody who's interested in this, if you have little kids, if you have, actually it's all the way K through 12 that they work with. So if you have kids, I encourage you, go look. I'm going to put the name up on the screen. Look at this. Trish is working in real time here. Can I do it? Can I do it? Can I do it? I think I can. Herzog Foundation. .com. That is their name, herzogfoundation.com. And they basically are just a foundation, a charity that is working to make sure that you have access for your kids to the best Christian schools in America. And they'll guide you through this whole process, because I know it's not easy. People get worried about taking kids out of school. They have a whole sort of approach to it that I think is really helpful. They also evaluate all these Christian schools, so you can check it out. Again, maybe you have grandkids, maybe you have children that are looking at this. They have an online publication, The Lion, the new podcast, Making the Leap, all of this from Herzog to help parents find a better path for their kids. Because what we're looking at, and hopefully it changes, for goodness sakes, hopefully it changes. I mean, he's getting rid of DEI and, getting rid of some of this woke nonsense, but it needs to change, because family, faith, community, these are the things that matter. And you got to teach kids to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. So I'm thrilled to have this partnership with them. I'm thrilled to promote them, and I encourage you to go check that out. We got some big news happening right now, do we not, ladies and gentlemen? We've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for how many years, how many decades?
Lastly, sir, we have an executive order ordering the declassification of files relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
That's a big one, huh? A lot of people are waiting for this for years, for decades.
Decades, indeed. I know it's hard to hear, but he's basically signing the executive orders to get the RFK, JFK, MLK files out and about into the open in the name of transparency. Transparency, which is so desperately needed. Hey, look, RFK Jr. knows that. His uncle was assassinated. His dad was assassinated. Here's his comment on what Donald Trump just did.
President Trump You think that that's the right move to declassify those documents?
I think it's a great move because we need to have more transparency in our government, and he's keeping his promise to have the government tell the truth to the American people about everything.
Everything indeed. We need transparency. This stuff has to end. I mean, what are they hiding from us? What can't we know? That's a kind of still an open wound. I wasn't alive then, but anybody who was can tell you exactly where they were the day that JFK was assassinated. This is odd to me. So the grandson of JFK, he's all upset. All upset. This is Schlossberg, Caroline Schlossberg's son, writing declassification is using JFK as a political prop when he's not here to punch back. Huh. He says there's nothing heroic about it. JFK conspiracy theories. The truth is a lot sadder than the myth, a tragedy that didn't need to happen, not part of an inevitable grand scheme. So this is a tweet I found. Person saying, what exactly is the truth, Jack? Come on. To which I'm asking the same thing. Like, what do you mean? He's not here to punch back. The truth is actually just a tragedy. It's not what you think. So maybe he knows. He's just not telling us. I guess maybe he does. And Kash Patel said something really interesting with Glenn Beck recently. And I want to play you this because it kind of also sort of speaks to what the grandchild was saying. I mean, I still think it's important to declassify it all because we ought to know everything that was going on, for goodness sakes. We really should. Here's Kash talking about it with Glenn.
Never believed that the CIA killed Kennedy.
No. You're talking to a guy that's read the entire JFK file.
You've seen all the secret stuff?
I've seen all of that, and I've seen the 7 pages of the 9/11 report. I've seen it all.
You don't say that to people that you can't tell what you saw. Should the Kennedy stuff be released?
Yes.
Is there anything there that is like, is anybody alive?
The problem is, the things that we can't release have nothing to do with the questions you guys are asking. That's about as far as I can go on it. But like the answers you guys want, you pretty much have them. There's very minimal stuff that can't be seen from things that you wouldn't even think are related to that.
Why can't we release them?
And you're thinking temporally, like, did it stop back then? Right? You know, the way intelligence works is you're always developing it. Where did I get that? Where did that go? Oh, hey, I found that guy 5 years ago. Let's go talk to him. Where does that get us? You know, it's a little bit bigger of a jigsaw puzzle. I mean, it's the same. Look, so the 7 pages of the 9/11 report, yes, overnight, that needs to come out. I'm telling you, that's got to go. And there will be some people that are pissed off.
You wonder why? You wonder why they're so worried about Kash Patel coming in and running the FBI? Yeah, he wants to declassify a whole lot of stuff. But you see what he's saying there? He's saying that, like, you know a lot of the stuff already, and the stuff that you don't know that is still classified is actually not stuff that you would ever think about. So then when I put that together, this is conjecture here, okay? Full disclosure, I don't know anything. This is just conjecture. But I put it together with what Schlossberg's saying about how this is just so sad that they're going to do this. I'm wondering if there's just really some bad character type of stuff that might come out that is revealing about the Kennedy family, potentially, I don't know, or about MLK, that might reflect badly upon them. And this is why they've been holding back. I don't know, but I sure as heck want to find out because, you know, when you have this sort of lid on information, it creates this vacuum where, yes, conspiracy theories can go wild and people's imaginations can go wild. But if you guys just told the goddamn truth from the beginning, excuse my French, then we wouldn't be left questioning you and the institutions that are here to theoretically protect us. I say theoretically because Lord knows they haven't been. Certainly not when it comes to immigration or inflation or anything else. But here's Mike Pompeo also talking about this with, gosh, another one of my former colleagues. We're all over the place, right? John Stossel. I worked with him over at Fox Business. Let's watch.
Why'd you fight to keep the JFK files secret?
Because I was trying to keep Americans safe. And by the way, don't paint with too broad a brush. 99.6% of the JFK files are public today.
But it was 60 years ago.
John, not everything was 60 years ago. And I don't want to spend a lot of time walking through this, but suffice it to say, the definition of a document covered by this statute that you're referring to, it's a little bit wonky, but suffice it to say, if Congress holds a hearing tomorrow on the Kennedy assassination, the documents generated tomorrow will be part of those files. Those would be tomorrow, they'd be 60 seconds old, not 60 years old. And last thing I'll say is there are things that happened 60 years ago that are still important to keep in the vault. There are lots of things that happened that long ago that still are appropriate not to release. Think of names and addresses and families. And by the way, there's also no value in them. These don't hold the dark secrets that everybody wants to just hold up as the bogeyman. I saw the UFO files too. We've got bigger problems. In America, lots of bigger problems. Just because something is kept secret will not go to the darkest corners. But it's a lot of fun. I'm happy to go there with you if you'd like.
I'm no expert in this, but it just makes no sense to me the 60 years ago that there are things in there you've got.
Sure.
Like,
sure.
Hypothetically, just for example.
Imagine you had an operative operating somewhere in the world who was 20 years old at the time they were doing that work. 60 years ago puts them at 80 today. Average lifespan of an American male, something in that range. Yeah, you should keep their identity secret.
But this was the Kennedy assassination in America.
Right, exactly. Precisely right. Remember what the scope of these files is, John. The scope of these files isn't reduced to just what was happening inside the United States government. The scope of these files is legion. Anything that was talked about in the course of, there were hearings in the 90s, there were hearings in the 2000s, they ran far afield around the world. Anything that was part of those files is included in this. And so I had a chance to see not all of those documents, but most of them. The news value of them is grossly overrated, and the desire to keep them secret, the motivation, the rationale for keeping them secret is wholly justified. I think we released, I can't remember on our watch, 140,000, 180,000 pages of those documents while I was the CIA director. Totally appropriate to do so, and as time goes on, we should do our best. The most important reason to do it is because everybody out there talking about these things will get to see that there's less there than meets the eye. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, you know what? I'm a big believer in making sure that the public knows. I don't believe that you hide things from the public. And when you hide things from the public, you know what? You run into all kinds of other problems. I just want to say thank you to John for his super chat. Let me see if I can put this up. I'm not doing a very good job. Let me try again. Bear with me. Pointing out that, you weren't alive, I guess, in the 70s and 80s. I'm Gen X. Oh, okay. So you're a youngin'. You're a youngin'. Here he is. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. But there were like these nonstop documentaries about it and speculative shows on TV. Even the crime show Bones that ended in 2017 did an episode dedicated to the subject. So yeah, John, in other words, it's taken on this life of its own. John S. writing in a super chat. See, I'm getting the hang of the super chats, guys. Yeah. But you're right. And what I'm saying, and I think what Pompeo was sort of trying to say there too, and even Kash Patel saying, well, this is sort of nuts because you're actually causing people to have a certain kind of angst and lack of trust in their government because you're keeping all this stuff locked down. And at some point, you got to say, okay, what is most valuable here? And I'm telling you, what's most valuable is transparency. People need to know that they can trust their government, and obviously they can't. Obviously, they have learned exactly the opposite. I have only to go back to the cover here of the 51X spooks, the spies that lied. Obviously, you can't trust these people because you got John Brennan, you got Mike Morrell, you got Anthony, I almost said Fauci, we can include him too, but this was Anthony Blinken, who would become the Secretary of State, deliberately lying. And so this is messed up. This is not tolerable, and we need to stand up for ourselves and that we deserve more than that. You know, they're basically SHITing all over us, and it's not good. I got more on Epstein than I want to get to, but first, a word from one of our great sponsors here. I love these guys. Grand Canyon University, it's a private Christian university. You get the theme here. I'm going with the Christian schools and Christian universities in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, where we believe that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. GCU believes in equal opportunity. The American dream, it starts with purpose. Such a good and true point, right? You got to feel purpose in life. It's why I do this podcast. And you know what? I do this podcast, and when we started, we weren't making any money at all. But every day I came here and I had no followers. Leslie, I think you were one of the very first ones. Don Baca, you get credit too. And it was just us, right? Like there were like 10 of us. And you know what? I did this every day because this is my purpose. This is my passion. This is what I am committed to no matter what. And so sure enough, we got sponsors that would come on, and we're so grateful for all of them and the success that we've had as we've built up to now over 525,000 followers. But this resonates with me. They are one of our sponsors, but I love this because they do mean it when they say the American dream, it starts with purpose. And this is what GCU is about. GCU wants to equip you, give you the ways to move forward with your purpose so that you can promote human flourishing and create this ripple effect of transformation for generations to come by honoring your career calling. Your impact on your family, your friends, and community is massive. So you can change the world for good by putting others before yourself to glorify God. And whether you're looking at a bachelor's or a master's or a doctoral degree, they actually have online campuses. They have hybrid learning environments. They have an actual campus there, of course, in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. But these are ways that you can achieve your unique academic, personal, and professional goals. 340 academic programs as of September 24, and they're meeting you where you are, providing you a path to help you fulfill your dreams. The pursuit to serve others is yours. Let it flourish. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University, private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu. And now we're going to talk about Epstein. All right, so forget the Christian stuff for just a moment. Oh my goodness. Donald Trump calling for Congress to release all the information about how Epstein was killed. This is amazing. Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, says he wants this all released. He wants the files released the day after he signed the executive order divulging all files related to JFK's murder. Now, I've got some interesting information I want to share with you because I spoke just yesterday with somebody who knew Jeffrey Epstein quite well, was even talking to him in his final days when he was in prison. And I want to give you sort of his take, very, very trusted source of mine on Epstein and what he believes may have gone down. But before we get to that, just keep in mind, Jeffrey Epstein had a lot of very, very powerful friends. And this is something that my source was echoing to me just yesterday. Like he literally knew everyone, from MBS to Bill Gates to Barack Obama to Bill Clinton. Like he collected people, right? He just collected people. And my source said he was just insanely charming and brilliant, really, 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 really smart. And my source believes he was working for Israeli intelligence. And he was collecting information on all these people. And at some point, because of everything that happened and the fact that he was in jail, some people were really worried, perhaps, that he might spill the beans. He might be forced to spill the beans. Here he is, is with Bill Gates. There was that whole thing about the Russian bridge player, the young woman that somehow was looking for $500,000 in funding for her bridge club. She wanted people to play bridge online. Somehow was introduced to an acquaintance of Epstein, and then Epstein introduces her to none other than Bill Gates. This is right around the time of his divorce or right before the divorce. And so they allegedly had a thing. And it's really weird because also this same woman was quite friendly with that very attractive spy, Anna something, that they had to whisk out of the country and send back to Moscow. I mean, it's really weird, okay? So my source saying, listen, Jeffrey Epstein, who he knew for many, many years, was brilliant, super, super smart, highly connected, just charisma, charming. And my source not excusing any of the guy's behavior, just saying, look, that stuff I don't know about and is obviously awful, et cetera, et cetera. But he said he was talking to him up until his final days there in jail. And he's like, you know what? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that he would commit suicide because he was still, kind of still his energetic, charismatic self. And this particular person believes that what most likely happened is somebody knocked him off. I mean, think about it. The cameras go out. The guards are just suddenly not on duty. I mean, it's really weird. All those coincidences all happening together, considering who this guy knew and the kinds of goods he had on people. Everyone. So now, Donald Trump going to Congress saying, I want this released. He signs an executive order divulging all files related to JFK's murder. Now he wants all the files surrounding Jeffrey Epstein released. Well, that would be a doozy, right? Question is, was it us? Was it Israeli intelligence? Was it the combo of the two? Or was it just, what you see is what you get, and somehow he took his life? My source not believing that. So I'm going to pin that on him. And this is just one source, but somebody who knew him really well. So I find that very fascinating. And I think it would be really helpful to get more information. A lot more information. We need to know that. Staying in sort of this arena of information, I mean, he had a lot on Barack Obama. We're all wondering about Barack Obama. I think we're all wondering, what the heck, Jennifer Aniston? Really? Someone said to me, well, I got new respect for Barack. Landon Jennifer Aniston, if it's true. The rumors are out there on steroids right now. Everybody's talking about it. You see, even the Daily Mail's on it. Because it's a little weird that Michelle didn't bother to show up, not just for the inauguration, but Jimmy Carter's funeral. I said that all along. I mean, for goodness sakes, this guy's like a superstar in the Democrat Party. You guys worship him. You love Jimmy Carter. And you can't even go to his funeral 8 years as the first lady. And yet you're on an extended vacation in Hawaii with scheduling conflicts? I don't think so. I'm not buying it. Not for 1 second. I'm not buying that, especially when there's a lot of chit chat about Jennifer Aniston behind the scenes. Now, you guys are funny. I know you're like, wait a second. We didn't really think you liked girls. Maybe Jennifer's just a big distraction designed to make him look good. Anyway, she was asked about it on Jimmy Kimmel's show, and she's like, no. Nothing to do. I met him once. This is just a bunch of rumors. Let's watch.
Magazine that came out a couple of weeks ago, In Touch, said the truth about Jen and Barack.
That was of all the calls you get from your publicist where you're just like, oh no, what's it going to be? Or the email saying, some cheesy tabloid is going to make up a story, and then it's that.
Yeah. Does your publicist ever go is there any truth to this? Or is it...
No, that is absolutely untrue.
Well, I know it's not true. Yeah. I just don't know if everybody knows.
Well, it is untrue.
Some people, it is untrue. So the truth about Jen and Barack is that there is no truth.
There is no
untrue.
Truth.
You know Barack Obama.
I've met him once.
Met him once.
I know Michelle more than him.
What is there a truth about you and Michelle that we should know?
That is not true.
So, knowing that,
May I just say, what the heck is she supposed to say? Seriously, what is Jennifer Aniston supposed to say? Jimmy Kimmel asked you, okay, you're on the cover of In Touch, Us, whatever it was. What is she supposed to say? I mean, John S., thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it. Lady, I'm 53, and if you think I'm a youngin', then you're aging amazingly. More power to you. That's great. Well, Look, I listen. I appreciate all your support, guys. It's really, really wonderful. But I'm sorry, but like Jennifer Aniston, what is she going to say, right? Like she has to say that, I guess. She has no obligation to tell the truth. She's not a journalist. She's not at all in any way somebody who has to. Oh wow, that's very nice of you. I'm getting another. Gosh, you guys are like very generous today. The super chats are like flying in. KBAXEN writes, I get the feeling that the reluctance to release the latest documents about JFK is about protecting an organization more than a person, as above, so below. So that's, I think that there's definitely an effort to protect some stuff, shall we say, in more ways than one. But I bet you Jeffrey Epstein would have known all about Jennifer Aniston and Barack Obama and whether or not there was anything going on there. It is peculiar. It is certainly peculiar. In Touch, I said, just doing this whole big thing on it. And then there's this blog written by a woman. It's called House and Habit, Jessica Reed Krause. And she's saying, like, she's hearing all kinds of stuff. In fact, I think the most notable thing that she printed was a DM that she got from a friend, which says, he's with Jennifer Aniston. My old manager, now a friend, is connected to her inner circle. At a gathering with Jennifer's friends, the affair came up casually. Jennifer herself admitted it. They were sitting with a psychic, which makes it all sound very surreal, but it's definitely not a secret among her close friends. Well, I mean, that actually could explain why Michelle Obama was not there. I mean, she might be kind of angry. I'm just going to say something, though. Hear me out. Like, you were first lady for 8 years. I don't care if you're in the middle of marital troubles. I don't care if you're in the middle of a divorce. I don't care if your husband is doing God knows what with who knows what. All right. You were first lady for 8 years, which means you are part of American history. It is your duty to show up for things like funerals and inaugurations. Okay. Because this has to be bigger. It's the country, for God's sakes, Michelle. Get some class. Show up and do your duty. I'm going to get mad now. But you know what? Kid Rock had something really good to say about this on Jesse's show the other night. Kid Rock's like, look, you know what? I was asked to perform at an inauguration where I didn't even vote for the guy. I didn't vote for that president. But guess what? I showed up and performed because I am a patriot. Michelle can't even be bothered, despite the fact that she lived in that White House for 8 years, to do her duty. She's just on vacation, an extended vacation in Hawaii, because maybe she's got some marital troubles. I don't think so, honey. Be bigger. Be better than that. Here he is.
So is this your first inauguration?
No. I was actually listening to your show a little bit before I got in the truck here, and I heard, Michelle Obama's not attending. I would kindly remind her that years back, when Obama was first elected, I did not vote for him. But they asked me to play the inauguration, and I played it, and I went. Had a good time. I went for out of respect to the presidency, so I would kindly remind Miss Michelle about that.
I forgot about that, and that's cool, because it's really not about the politics, it's about the office, and you got to respect it. Why isn't Michelle attending? All the other first ladies are.
I don't know. She seems a little angry. She might be, I don't know. If you can't say something nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just say it for him. He can't say she's angry. She's angry because something's up. Okay, that's just I don't have any sourcing on this. This is just my female instinct, okay? My female instinct tells me something's up, and she clearly has no class because she should have shown up for the inauguration, and she most definitely, you know what? Okay, great. She doesn't like Trump. Like, maybe you could give her that. She should have showed up for the funeral. That was really just gross behavior. Gross behavior. I want to go back to a moment to, gosh, the super chats are just flying in. It must be payday with Friday, right? I'm teasing you guys. John S. writing, oddly, in my opinion, every family member, descendants of MLK, are apparently making statements about not wanting those files released. Why? I think I think because there's something in there that's kind of bad about the family. That would be my hunch. I mean, did you see the book that came out this year about JFK? And it's just awful. Like, it makes... Donald Trump says nothing happened with Stormy Daniels, but if it did, I would just say, like, at least he's, like, fraternizing with, professionals, okay? Like, JFK, that book that came out, woo! I mean, young girls victimized there in the White House, apparently, like, wild parties, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I wonder if that's in the files. I don't know. Like, that could be, perhaps, John, I'm speculating purely here, but that book was pretty awful, and I didn't read the whole thing. I don't think I could have, like, as a mother, as a woman, like, it was just really too disturbing. But you wonder if some of that might come out. And so perhaps they're trying to protect the family from some of that scandal, although some of the scandal, as we said, has already been revealed. I don't know. But again, I go back to Steve Frischman saying, look for Howard Hunt. We're going to look for Howard Hunt. He said he was there and he believes it was a CIA operation. I don't know. Greg McNeely writing about MLK, like, we might learn that he had some rather serious indiscretions. Bill Clinton ought to be happy. He's going to look like, he's the local church pastor. Perhaps in comparison to what potentially could come out. My goodness. So we're going to find out more, and that's going to be happening in about 14 days. So I think I'm looking forward to it. Again, all in the interest of transparency. So long as we're on the topic of divorce and the Obamas potentially getting one, Kamala Harris is saying some kind of awful stuff, apparently to her inner circle, which has gotten leaked to the Daily Mail, about hubby Doug. Dougie. She's blaming him for her loss. I hate to break it to you, honey, but you know what? That was all you. I mean, Doug didn't necessarily do you any favors, but that was all you. So now the Daily Mail reporting that, there's some trouble in paradise and she doesn't know what she's going to do with this ball and chain because he's dead weight. Not going to help her political career. She tries to aspire to be governor of California. Here they are at a grocery store, however, because, life is back to normal. Oh, it's got to be tough, Kamala. You're just doing the basic grocery shopping stuff. Did you notice how expensive everything is, honey? Did you notice how prices are just going way, 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 way up and away? I mean, wow. She probably hasn't had a chance to do that for a while, and now she's getting sort of a taste of what's what.
Thank you for your service.
Kamala and Dougie, they might be on the outside. Now, according to this particular... that's courtesy of the New York Post. Thank you for that video. Going and tracking them down. According to, I'm on the wrong divorce here. Here we go. According to the Daily Mail, her frustration with the husband stems from some of his past indiscretions. Remember the whole nanny that got pregnant thing? And then he broke up his marriage as a result of that. And so then later he met Kamala. I mean, it's not exactly, a Cinderella story. Like, Dougie had some issues. And then there was that whole allegation about him getting really aggressive with a girlfriend on the red carpet. And that didn't really fit with her narrative to be rah-rah women, right? She married a guy who had been married once and wound up divorcing his wife because he impregnated the nanny. Lovely. Okay? Lovely. So I don't know what to tell you on that. I wish them well. Grocery shopping. I'm glad that they will now know how much egg prices have gone up and they can feel it and see it for themselves. And we wish them the very best. I can tell you this. She doesn't have a shot. Not one shot at any kind of, in my estimation, future in the political arena. I think that that's come and done. Apparently they're trying to rent a $20,000 apartment per month in New York City, and she's going to go back and forth to California, which is burning to the ground because of, dare I say, bad leadership. Very, very bad leadership. You know it. Quick shout out to 76 Research. Again, my financial research company. I'm so proud of having created. Listen, our stocks are doing so well. I can't wait to, we're going to get, at the end of the month, we'll bring you the new report for where things are. But you can see here, this is just a snapshot in time, how well the performance has done on so many of our picks. There are 3 different model portfolios for you at 76 Research, 10 to 15 stocks in each one. Rob and I have spent a lot of time on each of these companies, really trying to dissect them, know them inside and out, because we are big believers in their opportunities. And Rob is brilliant. He's been trading stocks and running mutual funds and billions of dollars for more than 2 decades on Wall Street. So I am thrilled to have him at 76 Research. I want you to use code DOLLAR if you want to get the 76 report, DOLLAR. It's just $1 a month, goes to $9.95 thereafter. But I really do encourage you to go look at those model portfolios, because we have things in there like we have an income builder portfolio, which I know is so popular with so many of you, because you want to be able to retire at one point and you want to be able to live off of your investments. So the income portfolio builder is a really, really strong one. The other thing to look at, if you have a little bit of a longer time horizon, if you want to capitalize on this growth, and there's lots of growth happening. I mean, it's amazing, right? Since Donald Trump has come in, and I think many, many more good things to come. That's the American Resilience Portfolio. All of this, again, available to you at 76research.com. 76research.com. Meghan Markle is having a really hard time. You know, the woman who married Prince Harry, he never should have married her, right? You know, I always say that, like, the most important decision you'll ever make in life is who you marry. And he went really, really wrong on that way. I mean, you can't pick your family, right? You're born into your family, but you can pick your spouse. So you need to be really thoughtful about who you pick. This is the newest cover of Vanity Fair, and it's called American Hustle. American Hustle, because these are a couple of hustlers, according to the article. It's really kind of a hatchet job on them. It doesn't surprise me. I mean, he's all messed up. He leaves his family. She thought she was going to be the superstar. I'm sorry. That went to Kate Middleton long ago. You were always there as the spare as well, Meghan. Apparently, she can never really handle that. It's very interesting. I had an agent, God rest his soul, just a wonderful, wonderful agent, John Ferreter, who liked everyone. He really did. He loved everyone. There are only 2 people in this world like he didn't have tremendous respect for. One was Lauren Sanchez, who is now engaged to Jeff Bezos. And then the other was Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle. He also represented Piers Morgan, and Piers, you know, has absolutely no respect and no use for one Meghan Markle, and saw her as a climber and a user and all these sorts of things. Anyway, this article is pretty darn damaging. It talks about kind of just how dumb they are and how they kind of thought they could waltz into all this money, and they didn't really understand that they had to work for it. Like, oh, we can have a podcast. What did I tell you? I've been doing this podcast. I started off with, Leslie was here, Don was here, a few of you were here, David Lorenzo was here. I mean, we had no one, right? We started, and we started small, and we've been getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of vigilance, and I obviously have a very, very strong opinion, and that comes through loud and clear, but she didn't know what she wanted to talk about. She just wanted to have a podcast, but had no idea really what she wanted to talk about. So boy, oh boy, did that fail spectacularly. So in the beginning, reports Vanity Fair, there was all this interest in the couple. It was totally like, oh my gosh, they're great. But then it turned out that they really they were dissing like the very thing that was interesting to people. So they came, Harry's upbringing, that was interesting to people, but he hated it and he was dissing it. And so he's trying to escape all that. But it's like, okay, well, that's really kind of all people are interested in you for. The article goes on to say, and it's pretty damning. It says that they didn't do what celebrities do on podcasts, which is turn the mic on and talk, because they couldn't. Like, if you listen to her podcast, and I've gone back and listened to these, and it's like so scripted and so, just so laborious. I mean, it takes her forever to get a sentence out. And she kind of spends a little too much. It's like overacted nonsense. And so that was her podcast. And it was just nauseating, right? So you can understand nobody wanted to listen to it. It wasn't interesting at all. And she had no viewpoint. And she kind of talked really slow and deliberately, like she was a middle schooler in her first play. All right, so the whole thing was bad. And then apparently Harry had no ideas. Harry thought, this is great. Harry thought, I'll do a podcast and I think I should do it on psychopaths. Like what makes someone a psychopath? Is it their upbringing, whatever? And then when I interview these psychopaths, I want to interview people like Mark Zuckerberg and Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. So the Spotify people are like, oh yeah, good luck with that one. Like that's really just exactly what a booker wants to say. So we have this new show called Psychopaths with Prince Harry, and he thinks you'd be a perfect guest on the show. Oh, they're going to just come climbing. They can't wait to go on the Psychopath show. I mean, it's like really divorced from reality and yet always trying to make a buck. The American hustlers. But the best part of all, the best part of this entire thing is that according to this article, her team went to a book publisher and asked what they thought a book would be worth about life after Harry, after the split, after the divorce. You want to talk commercial, huh? Scary. Harry, watch out. Harry, I don't know if she's really in it for you. You might be her ball and chain. Kind of like Kamala. Kamala and Meghan. There you go. They should get together. They should do the big expose. Ditch the spouses. Go do a podcast. And well, they have nothing to say. We know that. And Kamala can't actually talk. Like at all. CBS proved that one, did they not? Quick shout out to one of our wonderful sponsors here on the show. Somebody was like, Trish, you keep getting younger. I will take that compliment all day long. Thank you for that. And John S., I think you had one more. I want to get to that in a second. But part of the reason that I feel good, and hopefully I look good, is because I do actually take my health pretty seriously. I drink a lot of water. I exercise every day. I go to the gym. I was actually at the gym this morning. And I take my multivitamins. This is actually kind of new for me because I wasn't very good at this before. And, you know, I took the Flintstone vitamins when I was a little kid, but that's when I was a kid. And it wasn't actually until Balance of Nature came along and they said to me, hey, you know, we have this great product. Go check our testimonials out. And I did. And like people had amazing things to say, amazing things to say about Balance of Nature. And I was like, all right, I'll try it and I'll get, you know, wedded to this. And so I take my fruits and veggies every single day. I get all my multivitamins, which for me is actually really important. Things like vitamin B and especially vitamin D because I'm just not in the sun enough. And certainly not now. It's so darn cold. Hey, even if I was in Florida, I'd be cold right about now, I think. So I love them for all their support. I love this because I get this delivered to my house every month. You can too. Use code word Trish, call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com. Wow, you're really chatty, John. Okay, let's talk again. You're really into the let me see if I can get Balance of Nature out of the way so we can look at your super chat. So John S. writing in again that he hasn't read the book, but as a kid I would read the joke pages. I would read the joke pages in Reader's Digest, and I had to ask my father why Natalie Wood is the only wood that doesn't float. It was supposed to be funny. Oh, okay, so he's talking about Hollywood. Yeah, that's another sort of conspiracy that was never really solved, right? People wonder how on earth Natalie Wood, it was just beautiful. Beautiful. Do you remember Natalie Wood in the original, before Rachel Zegler took it over, the original West Side Story? Gosh, she was just great. She didn't actually do the singing in that, but she's so beautiful and such a phenomenal actress. David agrees. He's like, yep, they're getting divorced. The Obamas are getting divorced, or is it Prince Harry that's getting divorced? Or Kamala and Doug? I mean, we have a lot of divorces to talk about today, do we not? My gosh, trouble in paradise. The Democrats are having a big problem. A big problem. You know, nobody's happy right now. It's like what Joy Reid was saying the other day. They're all feeling miserable, and they're feeling miserable because Donald Trump has now come to office. That's the reason. That's the reason. You know, life should be bigger than that, but apparently it's not. These women are.
And we're having a conversation. Yes. And we're going to go back to it. But before we do, I just want to say, this is the beauty of people who have different opinions. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes we're messy. And I don't know if you noticed that when I came out this morning, I had trouble trying to figure out, because there was nothing in the thing. There's something in the air. So just know something is chewing on us.
Yes. You know what's in the air, Whoopi?
What's
Trumpism. We lost the election. Wait a minute. We lost the election. We're miserable. Half of this country is miserable. And let's just tell the truth. We hate that he won. We hate it. And everybody's uptight and crazy right now.
Well, then I'm going to say to that machine over there, you stop blaming me. You do what you're supposed to do. You bring up the words I need to say. So what I need to say is we're going to go back to the convo that we were having.
You see, everybody's miserable. That's why the Obamas are getting divorced. That's why Kamala Harris is getting divorced. And that's why Meghan Markle is scoping out how much a divorce might actually mean to her. Apparently, allegedly, per the Vanity Fair article. No inside intel on that one. My only inside intel is that someone I knew did not like her very much, and Piers Morgan as well does not like her very much. Anyway, it is a great show today. It's good to see all of you guys. You know, I have this members thing that I would encourage you to also sign up for on YouTube, because I thought this weekend it might be fun to kind of just have one of these members chats. So if you're over there as a member on YouTube, please join me. We'll get together over the weekend and do a little bit more reporting, and I'd love to hear from you over there. Thank you so much again for all your generosity with so many super chats. Wow, that is just, I don't think we've had a show quite like that, so thank you for that. And I am looking forward to seeing you over the weekend, and of course again on Monday. We get a couple of interesting weeks coming up, do we not? You bet we do. I'll see you then.